On this episode of K-Pod.
So for this episode of K-Pod, we're going to be talking about the COVID-19 or the coronavirus outbreak, both here in Korea and also in China. We'll first talk about how things were in the beginning, what we went through during that time. We'll then get into the changes here due to the outbreak, mass testing, tracing. And lastly, we'll talk about how it's all affected teaching, classes, what the new normal is, travel, what you can expect if you're still thinking about coming here, some online teaching, and where we think this is all going.
It's K-Pod, Life in Korea, with your hosts Scott, Marco, and Adam.
Welcome to K-Pod, Life in Korea, the podcast that brings you some of the lives of people living and working right here in South Korea. I'm Scott, one of the hosts of K-Pod. I've been living and working in South Korea for almost 19 years now. I live in Masan, which is part of Changwon City, and I currently run Changwonderful and Changwoner Entertainment, including this podcast. Joining me today is one of our co-hosts here on K-Pod. He's been doing the podcast with me for the past few years. He also lives in Changwon, is a public school teacher here, and has been here for the past almost 10 years. He's originally from the Toronto area in Canada. He went to UFT and came here shortly after. Please welcome back Adam. Adam, how's it going?
I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad. And also back is our other co-host here on K-Pod. He's been a co-host since the past last season. Originally, he's from West Virginia, USA, but he's been living and working in Changwon as a teacher for the past 4 years. He was also involved with K-Pop Global. If you follow the show, you'll know who he is, of course. He's Marco. Marco, how's it going?
Going great. Thanks for having me.
And returning for this episode, we have one of the original co-hosts of K-Pod, or the Changwoner podcast back in the day when we first started out. He's originally from the Newcastle area in England. He's been living and working here on and off since around 2004, I think. And he's one of my oldest friends still living in Korea. He's currently doing design work and runs Hype Design Studio, which you can find the link in the description below. Please welcome back Paul. Paul, how's it going?
Great, thanks for the plug, dude. Good to be back. Thank you.
Great. And lastly, returning for this episode of K-Pod, we have the other original host of K-Pod, another longtime friend who is originally from the United States and currently living in China. He's a traveler, a teacher, an author of such books as Finding Jack 420 and the kids' book series, The Lee's Storybooks, which you can find the link below or on Amazon. Some of you know him as ABCD teacher, and of course we all know him as Dee. Welcome back, Dee.
Well, I have to say I am very happy to be here and see all you boys. I haven't seen you guys all together in a long time.
And just want to remind everyone out there listening to this episode before we get into things that if you enjoyed the podcast, please remember to subscribe wherever you are listening to this. Leave us a review on Apple or anywhere you can. And you can also watch this episode on our YouTube channel at the Changwoner. Links are below. Please also share this podcast if you know someone who would be interested in it, or leave us your comments. Send us a message on anything you would like to know about living in Korea, or any ideas or topics you'd like to see us cover here. We love hearing from you and would like to help you out in any way we can. So to say nothing is new since we all last saw each other would be like the understatement of the year. There's obviously a lot of stuff going on in the world. So let's start off with where everybody was when the coronavirus, started being leaked out, or, you started first hearing about it. Let's start off with Dee, who's in China. What were things like in China? And were you in China when this whole thing started?
No, actually, we had just let out for the Chinese New Year holiday, and I had just flown to Bangkok, and then I took the train up to Laos, and I met this little fucker over here, Adam. We had a few days in there together. Good to catch up, but
sounds like a blast, though.
It was a lot of fun.
It was good. It was good. But it was kind of surreal because I was staying when I heard that this was a really big problem. I was staying in a place in Luang Prabang that was run by a Chinese guy who was married to a Laotian, and he wouldn't even let in Chinese travelers. Didn't let them stay at the place. He was turning them away, even though they made a booking. So it was kind of a bit, I don't know, dystopian in a sense, or the beginnings of dystopia, in my opinion.
All right.
But yeah, ended up having to stay.
When did you get back to China?
I didn't get back until February 29th. We only had 3-week holiday, but when we found out about it, they told us that we didn't have to come back. So we got an extra 3 weeks. So just ended up staying Vang Vieng and next to the river, just kind of
floating around. Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. So it was it was pretty crazy.
And Adam, I guess you, as Dee just mentioned, you met him.
Well, it was right at the tail end of my winter vacation trip. I went to Luang Prabang and then Vang Vieng, and then I ended in Vientiane, which is where I met up with Dee. And I was sitting there, and I had been avoiding news like throughout my whole vacation because I don't want, the news is always a bummer when you're trying to relax. And Dee said to me, "Oh, have you heard of this coronavirus thing?" And I was like, "What's that?" I had no idea. And then he started to explain to me, and I thought, oh, it's going to be like another SARS or something like that. But I didn't realize that it was going to be on such a grand scale until I came back to Korea. And yeah, I went to school one day and my vice principal just said, go home and stay home. So I had to stay home for, 3 or 4 weeks before I could actually go back in.
So when did you come back to Korea, roughly?
I came back, I think it would have been the end of January.
Okay. So before, maybe beginning of February or before February.
Yeah, I think it was in China at that time. But when I came back to Korea, that's when it started to spread to other countries, when it became a serious problem.
Yeah, I think here first. And Marco, I guess, were you in Changwon when everything started?
I was in Changwon when I started hearing about it. It would have been like mid to late January, I suppose. But we talked about it at work, but we never thought much of it. Had no idea it would become what it's become.
And Paul, I think you were back home, maybe?
Yeah, like it was the timing was pretty crazy. Like I left Korea about January 22nd, and I got back to the UK, and then it sort of all kicked off, I think, right? So I was in the UK, and I knew I was coming back within a month. So I told my parents, I said, listen, I'm going to be going back to Korea within a month. And then this whole thing blew up, right? And I was watching the news every day. And luckily, my mother and my sister, they don't watch the news, So I was watching these things like, the breakout Daegu, like everything going crazy in Korea. And I'm thinking, man, like, am I even going to get back? And then I got offered 2 jobs. And I was like, oh, like, should I take a job? Should I not go? And I was like, all right, I'm just going to go. And my dad was like, are you sure that's a good idea? And I said, it'll be all right. It'll work out. And the funny thing is I got on the plane and I flew to Dubai, right? And I got off at the airport in Dubai. I hadn't heard anything from the boss. I'd signed the contract. Everything was good to go. Had the paperwork done, everything. And I got to Dubai airport and I opened my phone and connected to Wi-Fi. And there was a message from my boss saying, did you leave England? And I was like, oh man, what's going to happen here? So I called her up and I said, yeah, I'm in Dubai airport. And she's like, do you want to just fly back to England? And I was like, no, I don't think that's a good idea. And she's like, yeah, it's getting pretty crazy over here in Korea, Daegu, blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I'm sort of halfway there already, like the plan's done and, it's currently okay to fly. So I'll just come back. All my stuff's there, I've got a life there. I might as well just come back. So I came back. And then obviously the boss had said, oh, you've got to start work this was on the 23rd of February. And she said, you've got to start work that week. And then she said, oh, we're going to close for a week, see how things go. And then 1 week turned to 2, turned to 3, whatever it was like a month. But, it was pretty crazy,
Yeah, so that's what I was going to get into next. So I guess when you were back home, things got bad in Korea. I think Korea was one of the first places. It wasn't bad in England at that time.
No, and that's the funny thing, because I wanted to tell my family, like, listen, prepare yourselves, this is coming. So I told my dad, I said, listen, I was out trying to get masks in like the local pharmacies and things before I came over to Korea, but people had already preempted that in the UK, so the masks were gone. And there was stuff coming up on the news saying, oh, maybe people should start buying masks or sort of start preparing and taking precautions, right? But my mother and my sister didn't know anything about it. And my sister's a hospital worker as well, but she hadn't heard anything really about it. I have no idea how. But obviously, as soon as I got back, I got masks. I was masked up, everything. And then I said to them, listen, this is coming. You should get masks and get sorted out. But I believe the UK, there wasn't a big drive to do that,
Anyway, so you would have got back to Korea, what was it, mid-February?
Yeah, February 23rd, exactly a month after I left.
And I think it was around that time for all of us in Korea anyway. I'll get to D in a second, how it was in China, but I guess it was around, I believe it was around, February 20th or 23rd, around there, that where I worked actually closed down. So was there Marco and Adam, when did you find out exactly? Like, did your schools close down? Did you continue working? I know public schools closed down, so Adam.
Yeah, we were in between semesters, but then I found out that the beginning of the semester would be delayed and delayed and delayed. And I actually, to be honest, I haven't started regular classes until this previous Monday. So like June 8th, like last Monday was my first day of regular classes.
Yeah, public schools just started a week or two ago. We'll get into that a little later. And Marco, were you working up to the point when things hit the fan, I guess?
Yeah, actually. So we had 1 week left of school before we started the new year. So like the new year was supposed to start at the very beginning of March. So we were working up until the last week of February, and I was actually checking up final books and things when the first case in Changwon happened, and it was at the hospital in Sangnam-dong, and my school's in Sangnam-dong. So we were messaging, and the first time there, I was like, someone from another school said they're closing. Are we going to close? They're like, no, that's not true. But then the very next day, I got the message, like, can you talk to I'm the head teacher at my school. So they're like, can you talk to the other teachers that you're not going to come in this week. But we were going in some during that time we were calling the students to kind of reassure them that everything was going to be okay. Especially like our students from kindergarten. The students?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, my students are really high level. Like at my private school, they have to be fairly high level to get in. And all of my students could understand. I don't know about maybe some of the younger students, because I teach the 7-year-olds, Korean 7. But the ones who teach like the 5 and 6-year-olds, I don't know how it was for them. But for me, my students understood pretty well.
Anyway, and Dee, over in China, you said you were on winter break when things kind of started breaking out and you got extra time. So you had a job at the time?
Yeah. I signed a contract. School year here goes from September to June. But now we're going to push it into July for 2 weeks just because of the virus, but usually finish June 30th.
So were you were told to take some extra time during your holidays? What you said, 3 weeks, was it?
Yeah, it was supposed to be 3 weeks for the normal holiday, but we were told just don't come back to Shanghai at the moment because of how bad it is, and the administration didn't want to put us in any jeopardy, especially when nobody knew what was going on at the time. It was just all
It's weird
Rush.
that they said don't come back, though. I mean, there's one thing not to come back to the country, and it's another thing to not come back to work.
Yeah. Yeah, they're like, yeah, just stay out as long as you can, see if it sorts itself out, which of course it didn't. And then upon arriving here, we had to go into a 2-week quarantine, and we're talking communism quarantine. I couldn't even step out of my apartment door where I'd have security come chase me back in. So the first week I wasn't so prepared, so I was a bit hungry the first week.
I was going to say, how did you eat?
Yeah, second, yeah, tell me about it. I had to wait on other people to deliver stuff, and delivery drivers would be stopped at the front door, and we were able to call the school organized somebody at this building, because there's about 25 teachers that live here, organize like a liaison guy to go around and take care of the other teachers. But so the second week, that was a little bit better, but I live right next to a fucking shooting range, and where they shoot clay pigeon shotguns. So every single fucking day was bang, 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 bang. And I thought it was bad on Saturdays, but just being here, I just about lost my mind.
Do you know anybody who got infected, Dee?
No, there's nobody I know that got infected. Like,
Okay.
either they dragged him away and shot him, or that's hyperbole, or they just locked him up and to a point where they couldn't get out or something in infected areas. But there was literally nobody that I knew of, heard of, or had anybody else I knew or heard of, anybody in Shanghai that had it or got it. And I think Shanghai's numbers were only like 500, 600, something like that. Nobody really knows here what the numbers are.
Yeah, because there was clearly some sort of fudging of the numbers by the Chinese government. I'm assuming, like, especially when, like the infection rate was so high, and then all of a sudden it was like gone,
Yeah, and then they started adding them a little bit here and there, like check it, and all of a sudden the death rate went up 1,400, and I was like, well, that's kind of scary in one day. And then I read that they were padding the numbers a little bit, or adding to the numbers that they didn't add to before. So yeah, nobody really knows what's going on.
Didn't the number of infections, like after the Japanese realized that they were never going to start the Olympics, didn't the statistics go through the roof for, the infection rate in Japan as soon as they realized that they wouldn't be allowed to host the Olympics? I heard something about that.
I have like a number of friends that live there still, and when I lived there last year, that makes sense, because it's almost like they want to cover it up, keep the Olympics coming. Boom, the dam popped a few holes. They can't contain it anymore. So yeah, let's just cancel the Olympics and then deal with the infection.
I think you can assume that about everywhere, though. Nowhere.
Yeah.
It all depends on testing. I mean, look at India with the amount of people there. There's no way they're testing, a lot of people there, especially in poor areas and stuff. So,
well, when I was in Laos, there were people in Vang Vieng that knew people that had it, and that was all just covered up, hush hush. And if you look at the numbers of Laos right now, you'll see that it's one of the lowest infected countries in the world. And I think they did that, just my assumption, just because it would kill the tourist industry. So they didn't want that to be affected.
So we all had about a month off there. I know I was off for about a month, I think from around February 23rd to March 23rd, give or take a few days. So Adam, what were you doing during your time off, and what were you thinking at the time?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, my vice principal just poked his head into my office when shit started to get really bad, and he just said, go home and stay home. So I just went home and I played video games and watched movies, and I tried to get in like a 45-minute walk each day just to get, because the gyms were all closed, and most places were closed at the time.
Okay.
So just try to stay in and stay safe, I guess.
And Marco, what did you do during your time off?
Well, as I said, I was still going in a couple days every week to call the kids and like try to prepare. We actually did some Zoom training and stuff.
So they
but
were
on my own.
They were continuing to pay you then.
Yeah.
Somewhat. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you weren't getting paid and they had you coming in.
No, it was nothing like that. No, I work for a great school. On my own time, I actually started taking online classes. One of my friends from back home had posted, "Oh, these are all these free online classes from Harvard," and I was like, "Let's just take a look." And then I saw some that seemed interesting, so then I started just taking some classes, even some that I paid for because I just really enjoyed it so much. And then to get outside at night when there weren't as many people, I'd like go play Pokemon Go or the Harry Potter Wizards Unite games or something later on at night when there weren't as many people out, just to get to walk or something.
All right, and Dee, you said you were traveling, and when did you eventually get back to China, or when did you decide to go back?
Came back the end of February.
And after you got back, how long was it before, like how much more time did you have before you went to work?
Before going back to school?
Yeah.
Oh shit, we didn't go back to school. We went back to school last month, about a month ago. We were March 25th, I believe. So we did half days of school for about 2.5 months, so almost 10, 11 weeks of schooling, which was great. All I had to do was prepare online videos just for the kids to watch every day. They covered a PowerPoint or something related to what we were talking about, the topic, and prepared the packets for them to do. And then it was chaos, but we use an app called WeChat here, and we would meet for a group chat. Now, I had 2 classes that they merged together, so it was about 50 kids in one chat group. And I would ask a question like, give me an example of hyperbole, and then I wouldn't even get a chance to read it because they would drop as many messages as you can think of.
Yeah, that sounds hectic.
Yeah, I prefer to the alternative. Everybody was really gutted when we had to go back to online or campus, go back to campus. But no, it's good. I'm glad to be back at school. We just have a few more weeks before we're out now. So.
And Paul, you just got back here kind of when they decided to shut things down. So what were you doing at that time? I guess settling into a new place.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I've just got a little place, nothing to it. So I was sort of sorting this place out, a little bit of DIY, making the place feel like a home. I'd just been at home with my parents doing a load of DIY, and I was working on the design portfolio that you mentioned before for Hype Design. So I got to finish that off. That was great. And a lady friend of mine, she just moved house over to Jinneh. Well, she was already in Jinneh, but she moved. And I helped her sort her place out. So, basically, I just spent the whole time doing DIY and design, which is sort of for me, it's like dream job, you know what I mean? I loved every minute of it, right? Yeah.
And did anybody, kind of get panicky or anything in the beginning? I remember I was getting emails saying that they were going to close down travel. There was no more flights from, between Korea and Canada. And they were asking for all Canadians to come home. Did anybody get a little panicky in the beginning or anything like that?
For me, my girlfriend was actually back home visiting. And she flew back from Vancouver to Taiwan and then Taiwan to Incheon, I believe. And the day that she got to Taiwan, she flew back to Incheon, and the next day, Taiwan had stopped all incoming flights. So she just made it in just under the wire. And if it had been one day later, she wouldn't be here now. So,
but did anybody consider going home?
I didn't.
No.
No.
No. Paul,
No.
you just got here.
Yeah, it would have been pointless, right?
Yeah, I guess. All right, and before we get into how things have changed here since the corona outbreak, once again, if you're listening to this podcast, you can also watch this episode on our YouTube channel, and don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and share. So things have obviously changed here since the outbreak. How did you guys feel when you ended up going back to work? Like, were you a little more on edge? Were things obviously, there was the whole cautious stuff and how many kids came back to school and all that. So, Marco, when you ended up going back, when did you go back to work? Was it like March? Oh, I know you were going to make phone calls and stuff, but when did the kids start coming back in?
So our official first day back with kids in class was March 23rd.
Amen.
So we had missed the first 3 weeks of the semester. So we had to condense our curriculum. We worked it out with the parents so they understood what was going on. And students were fairly sparse early on. So I know I was taking different classes of the same age who used the same books put together, and things like that were happening. But I myself, like my feelings, I was fairly optimistic. I was glad to be back to work because I don't enjoy like doing nothing. I was having fun taking my classes, but at the same time, I'm very extroverted. I wanted to be around people, even if they're tiny people who don't know that much about life. So
Hey, stop talking about me.
I was really happy to be back.
Dee, what was it like when you went back to school?
Oh, well, everybody just got into this routine. Since we were online for like 10 weeks, everybody got into the routine of like waking up at 9 or 10 o'clock, having a nice breakfast, checking a few emails, going on a nice walk, maybe meeting a couple other teachers for a coffee in the afternoon, then having to go and do the online class that we needed to do, and then getting back out and doing the same thing. And so going back, everybody seemed a bit inconvenienced, but now it's all right. Everybody's just looking forward in my school, and I work at a very large school. We have 70 foreign teachers here, so it's a lot of the teachers are upset that we can't leave China at all. We just got approval to be able to leave Shanghai, and everybody's got to work an extra 2 weeks in the summertime, which cuts our summer break short. So everybody's feeling a bit claustrophobic right now. I should say the least, myself included.
And Paul, you kind of were just getting back into teaching, actually. So this is kind of it's been a while since you have been teaching. What was it like going back to where you started? I mean, you're starting a new job, so it must have been a bit strange in general going back to.
Yeah, it was pretty strange. Like I obviously hadn't met teachers, hadn't met students, I hadn't even been into the school really. And I believe the Saturday prior to the Monday that we opened, she said, "I'll come in, we'll have a little bit of a meeting." And, obviously it's Korean style. She's just like, "Oh, this is the school." And I said, "Well, what am I doing?" And she said, "Well, whatever, we'll sort it out on Monday." And then the thing that stuck out for me with starting a new job at a school with kids that are wearing masks and teachers that are wearing masks is I'd never seen their faces, right? And still to this day, sometimes some of the kids will take their masks off and they look completely different to what I would have expected them to look like. And I've never seen their faces, right? It's so weird, right? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
They'll have buck teeth or something.
Like, damn. Yeah, but it's just sort of like it really, I don't know how to put that in words, but it was really, really strange, Marco, right? Like, just like, yeah, I'd never met these people, and I'd met them with masks on. So, and you know, who experiences that in their lives? You know, like you've never even seen this person, and you teach them every day or like every couple of days for like a month or two, and you don't actually know what their face looks like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like a little, little girl
It's
with
like-
a mustache.
Yeah, well, just this past Friday for me, I started teaching a 5th grade class, which last year I taught. They were in grade 4, and there's one girl who's like really cool and like really outspoken, but she said something, and I was like, "Yewan, is that you?" She's like, "Yes, it's me." I couldn't tell because the mask is like up to her eyes, you know.
Mm. So Adam, you just went back to work with classes, what, a week ago?
Yeah, but I was desk warming for months, and that got really boring.
But you got students back, and you're back in the classroom. So
I'm back working now.
First week.
The first week, our schedule is pretty tight. Like they stopped the 10-minute breaks between classes. I think it's to avoid students, you know, mingling in the hallways and stuff like that. So like I'll finish one class. Whereas I used to have 10-minute break to get to my next class. I had like rush to the next classroom, set up all my PowerPoints and everything. And it's a little hectic at first. You know, I'm starting to get used to it, but it's good. I'm glad that I'm like the weekdays and weeks are going by a lot faster now that I'm actually working at work.
One thing I've noticed, things are letting up a bit, but we'll get into that. But wearing masks. You know, at the beginning, I didn't mind that much, but it's getting a lot hotter out there, and it's tougher.
Can you guys use air conditioning at your schools?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
How about you, Adam, at public? Can you use?
Yeah, we can use it, yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. A lot of places can't, I guess, right?
We were not, we for a little while there, they were saying that we couldn't use air conditioning in a classroom, which... all of us were dreading, but now it's okay. Shanghai is really hot in the summertime, though. It's so hot right now.
You should have pulled them out.
Why were they saying that? Just out of curiosity, like, would that give you a reason why you couldn't use the air conditioners?
They thought it would circulate the air more, which could leave people prone to, which is like regulations in the classroom where we have to the kids have to sit, you know, social distancing in the classroom. But then when the bell rings, they're all just hanging all over each other anyway. So it's pointless. But they still have to. I was just going to
mention, it's actually the recommendation for schools in Korea right now are not to use air conditioners. So some schools are not allowing it. You can't have either the windows closed or fans going on and stuff like that. It's because because of the circulation of the air, I guess. But it's nobody's checking or anything like that anyway, so it's really up to the school.
Oh, so it's recommended but not enforced, you're saying?
Right. Just like every day you get a notification recommending that you don't go out, but people are, you know.
Yeah, because a lot of the schools' aircons are centralized, aren't they? It's all like connected, you know. Is that right?
Yeah.
Maybe public schools, yeah.
So that makes sense, right? Like, you know, like keep the windows open, keep the aircon off. But the fans in the classrooms, I don't really understand that. No fans?
Fans were okay. It's the air conditioning. It's like kind of like closing windows. I don't know the exact details because it's all in Korean, but...
Did any of you guys here, like, I don't know if Adam or Marco, Adam actually is public school, right? The cafeteria's got the booth sort of like screens. Does yours have that?
Yeah, we have these plastic dividers they're like on either side and in front of you as well. And when I first started eating in the cafeteria, you can see through them. Okay. You can't really have a conversation with anyone because you kind of got to like shout. But at first, when we started eating in the cafeteria, we had to sit like one person and then empty desks, or not empty desk, but empty space, and then another person, empty space. But now we can all sit together, but we still have these plastic dividers, you know, to, I guess, prevent the droplets being potentially, you know, sneezed out.
We're using test folders at our school.
Okay.
Because they eat in the classrooms. So
yeah.
So let me ask you guys a question. Sorry, Scott. are there any conspiracy theories going around Korea about the virus? Because there's a lot of them in China right now.
There's always going to be. No matter where you go, there's going to be conspiracy theory, right? You know? Like,
yeah, the conspiracy theory, we're not supposed to talk about really anything in China when we're in the classroom. Really, we're not supposed to talk about a lot of things. We're strictly prohibited in China. But I brought something up, like I was doing a class, and I have to go to public school 2 days or 1 day a week right now. This part of the government mandated through my bilingual school, and brought up just for example, let me give you a sentence. The coronavirus originated, we're learning the word originated in Wuhan. The whole class went, no! So what do you mean? Man. The whole class said, America!
Oh, man.
Really?
Yeah,
wow.
The virus originated in America.
Do they call it the Wuhan virus there?
No. They don't call it anything. They call it the coronavirus.
The Wu-Tang virus, eh?
The Wu-Tang
Staten Island.
Yeah.
Old dirty bastard, Inspector.
Yeah. In fact, probably you won't see me again after this podcast once it airs. So.
Well, I hope you don't get, taken away or anything at this point.
I have been reading about that, though. Like, I've read a lot of articles saying that that's what they're saying in China, that it came from America to sort of subvert China. But then in America, I have a crazy-ass uncle who thinks that China and the Democrats worked together to create it to subvert Trump. So they're conspiracy theories everywhere.
I've heard that one as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think go on.
I was going to say I haven't heard any conspiracy theories at all in Korea, relating to Korea. I mean, watching news and stuff, from back home and stuff, sure, but I don't think there's much conspiracy going on within the country itself. But then again, what would people could be?
Unless you're talking about the Itaewon.
But they had to do that because, parents, I think all schools that I know of, which is not a lot, but all schools that I know of, parents were calling and asking about the foreigners.
I kind of understand that. My boss did the same thing. She came and she was right uncomfortable and she said, I've got to ask. The parents have been asking. And I said, no, I haven't been there. But then she sort of went a little bit further and she posted this sort of celebratory advertisement on Kakao Talk to all the parents saying, don't worry, our foreign teacher hasn't been to Itaewon. We're all safe, Yeah. And I was thinking, well, I get it. I get that. I understand it. But at the same time, she did the same thing when I first came to Korea because I'd been traveling, and she posted a poster saying, don't worry, the foreign teacher doesn't have coronavirus. He's just been for a test. So all of your kids, are safe at the school. And I thought, well, that I understand it, but she's got to mention the teachers at some point, and say we're all clean, sort of thing,
Did you have to be tested?
No, what happened was I had to go for a health check, and I went to Fatima. And when I arrived in Fatima, they said, oh, have you had a coronavirus check? And I said, no. So they said, oh, you've got to go and get one. I said, all right. So they basically put me through the whole coronavirus check thing outside in these container unit, purpose-built sort of temporary structure things.
Did you get the nose thing?
Yeah, the nose thing and everything. Oh. It was pretty, it was weird, but it was fine, It was.
They must have needed
a big get blood taken too.
So you get me? Yeah, right.
Did you have to get? Oh, who? Sorry.
Blood, sorry, Dee?
Yeah, did you have to get blood taken too?
No, but they did have a unit for that. It was step 1, step 2, step 3. And I got to the blood taking unit, and they were like, no, you just skip along to the next one there. And I was like, well, all right. So I did the thing, and then they said, okay. And I was thinking I was going to get the medical check right after. Obviously, I wasn't. It was naive. And they said, I'll just come back tomorrow. So I said, all right. So I came back the next day, and the boss had said, oh, how much did it cost? And I said, oh, they didn't charge me anything. And I went back the next day. And as soon as I picked up the results, they were like, okay, that's 130,000 won. And I said,
shit.
Okay. Yeah, and it turns out that I could have got it for much less at the local sort of I don't know, the local, what do they call it again? The local hospital sort of thing, not one of these bigger private sort of semi-private hospitals. But anyway, I got it, and I was fine. And then I went and got my medical check, and yeah.
Anybody
But,
else
they didn't
get tested?
I
I
haven't
got
been
had to
tested.
get all of it done. In fact, when we showed up at the testing site, we all heard that we had to get blood taken. Holy shit! Did the foreigners kick up a fuss? They did not want to have. They did not want to have the Chinese government taking their blood. But then they even kind of threatened us, saying if you don't get your blood taken, you can't work with kids anymore. And a lot of them were like, "Well, guess I won't be working here anymore." But then it was just an empty threat, and we're back to work again with no problem. And some of the people that did get their blood taken, when they got back and heard that, they're like, "Well, that was kind of dumb. I should have done that too."
Well, I had my annual physical because I just renewed recently. And they didn't test me for coronavirus per se. Like, they didn't stick the thing in my nose, but they did ask me if I had any symptoms, and I just said no. And they asked me if I had traveled outside of the country recently or into Taiwan, and I was like, no. So
One of my coworkers, she got, well, she had just come in February, and you always get that like month in illness where you're first getting used to it.
Yep.
She went to the hospital, and they wouldn't let her in because she was a foreigner, and they thought she might have the virus. Actually,
really?
yeah.
Yeah, well, Marco, I had the same situation because I went for my health check in Jinhae at the big hospital here, which is like Yonsei Byongwon or whatever. And they looked at my ID card. They looked like sort of frightened rabbits in the headlights sort of thing. And they looked at the ID card and they said, "You've got to go to Changwon." And I was like, all right, but like my visa's like F. So I was like, well, like, why? And they just said, "You've got to go to Changwon." And they sent me to Changwon. And so my boss called the education office, and the education office said that's not true. And they called the hospital, and the hospital just said, "Sorry." Yeah. And that was it. There was no reason, So I had to go to Changwon, What are you going to do?
Speaking of testing on all that, what about experience with quarantine? So I don't think anybody here had to deal with it, but do you know anybody who's come back? Paul just missed it, I think, when you came.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank God for that. Yeah.
But any experience or know people that had?
My girlfriend, when she came back from visiting her mother, she thought that she had a fever one day, and she checked herself with one of the fever checkers.
What is the name? Oh, okay.
I don't know, but anyway, it was slightly a little high, so she called her boss, because she was actually very paranoid about this. She's all right now, but she was a little freaked out about it at first, and so she took good measures, and she called her boss, and then she said 2 guys with a hazmat suits showed up at her apartment, gave her the test, and she wasn't able to leave her apartment for I think it was 2 weeks.
So she was in quarantine though.
They checked her temperature with their fever checker though, and she was fine. So I think she just had a faulty machine. It was giving her
I like that you're calling it a fever checker.
The fever checker, yeah. the fever remote.
It was probably.
I have a question. If you guys go out in public, how many times a day, if you go and spend like 3 or 4 hours outside, how many times a day would you think you get your temperature taken?
0.
I only get it at work.
0?
I have never had my temperature taken anywhere except for work.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, no. Actually, I went to a movie last week. They re-released Mad Max Fury Road, and they had like a body temperature machine that I had to stand in front of, and they wouldn't let me go up the escalator to the theater until it read my temperature. So
when we were allowed out in public, I clocked myself getting my temperature taken 16 times in one day.
Wow.
16
times. I had to get it.
Wow.
I left my apartment 2 or 3 times to go to the I live right above a supermarket in a building, so there's a mall underneath my apartment. Like literally, I could take the elevator down to the mall and then down to the supermarket. And when I left the building and I went to the supermarket, I had to get a check there, came back, had to get a check inside the building. When I walk into my building, then I forgot something, had to go back, same thing, checked. And then when I came back, checked again. Then I went out to get a coffee, had to get it checked. Went a couple other places and got it checked. And it just everywhere. Every single business had that going on for probably 2 or 3 months.
I suppose why not, though?
Yeah, it's fine.
You know?
They're just checking your temperature. I think it's better to be cautious than not at all.
Do you have to wear? I was going to ask Dee. Do you have to wear a mask on public transit there?
Yeah,
because we have to wear it here.
Public transit or can't get on.
Yeah, same here.
So things here in Korea relatively stayed open the whole time, except for again schools, which involved us. But what do you think the difference is, like in Korea, maybe in China too? Like I remember when everything was closed for a month. And, it hadn't affected, let's say, North America yet. And I was thinking, man, like it's almost up to 8,000 cases here and it's pretty bad. But then, like, I'm just thinking, like, Canada back home, I mean, it's almost double the population here. But it's like taking everybody and putting them where my parents live in Newfoundland in terms of, the land size.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, Canada, they're doing okay, and things aren't that bad there, but they've passed China. So, like, what's the difference? Like North America, I'm not going to talk about the U.S. much. I mean, that's a different thing.
It's a different podcast.
It's a whole nother ball game.
But you can. But like, what do you think they're doing here that, in some ways, is right? Like, things aren't as bad in terms of the rest of the world now. Is it mask? Is it testing? Is it their ability to track people and stuff like that compared to?
I think tracking has a lot to do with it. After the whole Daegu thing and after the Itaewon incident, they were, again, this is a matter of, invading people's privacy, but they were able to check where people had gone based on the pings on their cell phone, the cell phone tower kind of thing, where they had gone, who they had interacted with. I think that's a big part of it, and masks as well. That's
and testing is also a big part of it.
Testing too, definitely.
And actually, people abiding by the rules, I think, is a big thing too. It's like, okay, you can go outside, but you've got to do this, this, and this, and people sort of follow what they're supposed to be doing.
I think it helps in Korea that people already wear masks, like whenever they feel ill or even the air pollution is too high. So like in America, people didn't do that. So they feel more uncomfortable wearing a mask all the time than they would here in Korea.
I also think too that over in Asia, there's more of a group collectivism here where people are more conscientious about taking care of the group as opposed to back in the States where we're a bit more individualistic and think more for ourselves. So I think that might have things to do with other countries in the world too.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
Do you think mask made a difference?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely here. China's a bit different though, because almost every single apartment complex, city, gated community, they all have sort of like back in the old days when you ride in horse from one town to another, you have to check in with the guard station. So every place here has a guard station. They're really well enforced. They're pretty well trained as well as almost like a police unit. And they work at, like you said, somebody said about following the rules, Paul, I think that was you. People here in China are not really big rule breakers because they fear about the consequences. So
yeah. And before we get into some travel and our thoughts on the future here and where this is all going, just remember, if you're listening out there, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already, wherever you found this podcast. And don't forget, you can watch this episode on our YouTube channel. So, we talked about some of the changes and things that have happened here now. So in terms of where we think this is all going and our stuff like that, like public schools just reopened. So Adam just went back to classwork, let's say, in the last week. And, there's kind of different systems here. I know I've had students that some kids started 2 weeks ago, some started a week ago based on age. some kids go to school for 2 days a week, some go for 5 days a week. What do you think about the whole system that they're trying? And also, they did try online classes here for the last month, but I don't think they worked out that well. So what are your thoughts on like the whole online class testing and how things have been your first week back, starting with Adam, obviously?
It's good to be back teaching. It's half of the students 1 week, half the students the next week. So, of a class of, let's say, 25, it'll be 12 or 13 of them doing online classes from home 1 week. And during that week, half of their peers will be in school, and then they switch it up for the next week. And I'll have to make recordings for the students at home. I don't like doing the online classes, to be honest. I feel them to be a little too impersonal. I like to be in front of my students. I like to talk to them. I like to get feedback from them. I feel with these recordings, it seems like it doesn't have that special touch of like teaching in class. So those are my opinions of it. But yeah, we had them trickling in the youngest ages first, and then this past Monday we had all of them at school together. So.
And Dee, what are things like over in China in terms of being back in the classroom?
We just got the notification maybe 2 weeks ago. We don't have to wear masks anymore in the classroom. It's pretty much back to normal. The only thing is that we have to rush a whole bunch of information. We have to put in, like, we have to do standardized testing 2 times a semester, and we have to do that. Usually it's stretched out over 20 weeks, but we have to do it now stretched into 5 weeks, as well as midterm. As soon as we got back, we had to take a midterm, and then a few weeks later we got to take the final exam as well. So it's all right. It's, aside from the fact that everything's just pushed, and it seems like the kids lost a lot of abilities, English fluency and stuff like that when they were tied up in quarantine. Other than that, it's like I said, pretty much back to normal.
All right, and Marco and Paul and myself, I think we've all been back to work it's probably been about 2 months now, right? In classwork, I'm talking about. And
Yeah.
I guess other than maybe Marco did some online stuff, but how have you found things over the past 2 months, like being back in class? Are things different, say 2 months ago compared to now? Like, are there more kids? More kids are back, obviously, and are things...
Yeah, I've got a lot of full classes now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad public schools are opening back up, because I'm tired. And when these elementary kids are coming in after being home all day full of energy, it's way different than it was before when they were coming in after school and they're tuckered out. I need them to be tuckered out. Go back to school, please.
Yeah. See, it's funny you should say that, though, because, like, obviously I haven't got anything to base it off, but, like, just knowing kids, like, in general, before the public schools went back, I found that the kids that were coming into classes, they had less energy, because they'd come from home and they were kicking back and doing whatever. And then they had to come to the academy and they were like, oh man, like, what is this? Like, what have I got to do this for? But almost like, because they've gone back to school, when they're finishing school, their day's almost over and they're coming to the academy and it's like, oh, TikTok, like, we're about to go home. Like, this is fun now, like, so I kind of find it to be a little bit like, with some kids, the opposite. Like, they're more switched on and they're a little bit more like upbeat, like, not like going crazy or anything, but they're happier about going home and they're not like going crazy or anything, I don't know. Yeah.
I found the same thing. Like, when we first came back and kids were coming back, the kids that I had, I mean, not all of them came back at that time, but especially the young ones, they just came in and they all sat in their desk, spread out, desk in between and stuff. But they just sat there, silent, wearing these masks. Nobody was playing or, anything like that. And now it's a little more, especially the older kids, like the kids in middle school or high school, they're happy to be around their friends up until the last couple weeks because they didn't see them at all. But anyway, yeah, I find that you know, a lot more kids are back now. I have more classes than ever, and I also think, you know, when public schools were closed, it got to a point, and I think this is going to happen with all business and industries, but like parents just wanted to get their kids out of the house, kind of
Same in
thing.
China.
At a certain point, and it's
Same in China.
right. I've got 2-hour break here at night. Just if the Hagwon opens, we'll send our kid type thing, and weren't too worried about it. I mean, I couldn't imagine certain points in my life. I couldn't imagine if like this happened in the 80s or whatever when I was a kid, or like being stuck at home with my entire family. You know, it would be nice for a while or certain points, but not every day. And also, like, I couldn't imagine if this happened in like 2001 or 2002, my first job here, it would have been shit. Like Dee was talking about the, you know, people shooting the guns next door and driving him nuts. My first year here, I lived, you know, next to like a dog farm where they, you know,
I remember that.
killed dogs.
Oh, jeez.
I'd have to listen to them every morning. Like,
Oh, my God.
That was in Sorapdong, right?
yeah, or near their Sogedong. But yeah.
Sogedong, right.
But I lived near a mountain, and they had a hidden dog farm or something up there. But you know, listening to that, I didn't have I didn't have a bathroom. Oh, I had a bathroom, but no hot water or anything like that, and it would have just been awful. So in some ways, I'm kind of
Sounds like a nightmare place, man.
yeah, but it was my first year here. I was out.
Let's call that
all had the same in Hapsongdong, kind of similar.
That was the place that you lived at, where you lived in the school.
Yeah,
and you were on the top
bathroom
floor.
was my bedroom.
And the kids used to go to school, right? They'd go to school, and Scott would be sleeping because he wasn't due to teach for whatever time, and they'd come up and knock on his door. Am I right?
Yeah, I would just get out of bed and walk into the classroom, but I didn't have a washing machine. I didn't have hot water. I didn't have a lot of. But so it's better it happened now because, you know, being here so long, home is what you make it to be, and I think for a lot of people, when they learn this, wherever you're living, if you have a home and you make it your home, it's a lot easier to last if you're away from wherever you're from. Do you know what I mean? It's nice to come home to a home that you want to be in after work and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm just glad it happened now and not any time in my past type thing. I'm not glad it happened, sorry, but I'm glad it happened.
At this point, at this juncture.
Yeah. Well, geez, I mean, for Dee there, like Dee, you were saying you're over in like Laos, right? Like, I mean, like every cloud has a silver lining sort of thing, I guess. You know, like there could have been worse places of sort of having to hunker down than Laos, right?
Awesome place, by the way.
Yeah, it's
awesome country to travel to. I had such a great time there.
Bang Biang is my new go-to next time I get any time off that I can travel anywhere.
Me and the boys were in Vang Vieng doing the old quad biking, you know, the ATV, and years ago, and it was nuts. Like this French guy was doing the tours, and he took us out. He was on like a motorcycle, and we'd never ridden them. And he said, "Oh, just lean into it, do this, this, and this," and ripped through the jungles. And I was like, "Oh man, we're gonna die!" Like. And but it was a fantastic place. The mountains are amazing, right? Like
I got a flat tire on one of those back roads and my bike. I got a flat tire on one of those roads, and I thought I was gonna be pushing forever, but I found a place to fix it.
Yeah, just like that, right?
Yeah, just like
wonderful place. It's wonderful. It's low.
Speaking of travel and all that, I mean, there's all kinds of travel restrictions and stuff now. Like, I think you still can't fly to Canada from here or vice versa. I mean, you can, but not directly type thing. There's no flights like directly to Canada. And I saw recently, I think it was June 1st. I think Paul sent me this too, but I also saw it that now if you do any travel, you have to get tested within 48 hours before coming back into the country?
Yeah, you have to get a re-entry permit first, and then wherever you travel to 48 hours before you leave that country to come back to Korea, you have to have a written doctor's note from some kind of clinic in that country that has to be in either Korean or English that says that you have no symptoms.
And it has to include COVID testing.
Right.
You have to get a COVID test. And, I mean, travel as hard as it is, I mean, you know, I think I was planning on going home in June originally before all this happened. But depending on the country, like Canada is pretty strict, which maybe is good, but do you mean I can't fly home and have to quarantine for 2 weeks as soon as I get off the plane.
Yeah.
And then I could go to my parents and I could like wave to them in the window, say hi. But I shouldn't be going in there to, you know, stay or see them because of their age and stuff like that and, you know, health conditions. And then I'd have to fly back and spend another 2 weeks in quarantine here. So you're talking about like a month of quarantine.
Yeah, they're making it very difficult.
No, you know, and it's so hard to get time off as it is. I mean, if you get a week off, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Question is this going to be the future, or is this just a temporary situation?
I was hoping that these travel restrictions would have been like kind of relaxed by the time Chuseok rolled around, you know, Korean Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But instead, like I was, you know, I love to go to Japan like at least once a year. And I had to cancel those plans. And instead I'm going to Mokpo, which is the southwest coast.
It's supposed to be cool though.
Yeah, I've heard it's quite nice.
I've never been. Yeah. They've got another island that's called like Bigildo or something, right? Mokpo Bigildo or something.
Bigildo?
Like that, right?
Oh,
yeah, it's actually called Bigildo, which is
Bigildo. Yeah. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, they're supposed to be quite nice though, you know.
So with all these like travel restrictions, do you think, how's it going to affect, like, say, teachers in Korea? Do you think it'll affect people wanting to come here because of quarantining or whatever? Do you think there's like a higher demand for teachers because it's obviously harder to find teachers now?
I think it's like a bit of a mixed bag there because I've noticed like a lot of recruiters, because I was using recruiters when I came back again, so I got in touch with these recruiters and give references there. Resume, etc. But I think like a lot of small academies are closing down, right? Or they're definitely going for, instead of going from like having like an English as a first language instructor, they're using other people like Southeast Asians, etc., like trying to cut costs and stuff, but having a foreigner in the school. So maybe the demand for the teachers has definitely gone down, I would say. But because a lot of the foreign teachers, like certain people have said, you know what, I want to go home, this is too risky, then a lot of jobs have sort of opened up, which kind of probably makes it like, I don't know, evens it out somewhat in terms of like job opportunity or whatever, you know.
But it's hard to find teachers. You know what I mean? Like, is a school willing to say, all right, we'll get somebody new, but I think there's less people possibly willing to come here. Maybe not, depending on where you're from.
I think it depends also on how this is going to affect the world economy. So you might have like a lot of people graduating and then being like, the economy's in the toilet. Maybe I could go out to Korea and make some money to pay off, you know, my student debt.
Especially like North America, yeah.
Right. You know what I'm saying?
And the States.
Well,
so people just want to get out of there anyway, as it is. I don't know. And it's tougher for schools like to hire a teacher. Now they got to take into like consideration that the teacher's got to lock up for 2 weeks once they get here type thing.
And that's a struggle because where are they going to quarantine? If the former teacher is still here living in the apartment, they would have to pay for facilities for that too.
Love motels.
So do you find things in Korea are lightening up with regards to restrictions and, you know, concerns with COVID here? So, Mark,
and people are.
People are?
Yeah.
What about
like I don't know. No, like my work, I'm still we have to have the kids sitting separated. We have to wear masks all day. Restaurants and everywhere has the hand sanitizer. They're sending out the messages every day. Don't share glasses. Don't talk when you're out to eat and stuff like that. But I am seeing more and more people in the streets and more people without masks and things.
Yeah, that's getting a lot less. I notice that too. The odd times I do go out, there's a lot less people wearing masks. And I find it weird because in some way, like in the back of my head, I'm thinking, not negative, but I'm thinking, all right, why are these people not wearing masks? Like, I'm not looking down on them, but I'm a little pissed off at it. And then I'm also thinking, would the same reaction be the same if I wasn't wearing a mask? Would people not care too? Or because I'm a foreigner, is it important that I do wear a mask all the time? But anyway.
I would love to not wear a mask, but I choose to wear a mask because I never know. Like, if I were seen by a student or a parent, I could just imagine like a call to my school complaining, oh, this teacher needs to be tested. They've been out without a mask. It's dangerous and stuff like that.
That's one of the reasons, like, I haven't been out at all. I mean, I don't like going out in general that much anyway, but I haven't been out because I couldn't imagine being the reason or like the cause of giving a kid a disease or having a school closed down due to
right.
I don't want to be the excuse type thing or the reason behind things going bad, so I kind of just stay home. But Dee, what's it like in China? Are things starting to let up? You mentioned that you got notice that you don't have to wear a mask in class anymore, so what else?
Yeah, and they kind of like announce for the province what's going down and what the new regulations are. So Shanghai, out in public, you don't have to wear a mask anymore. It's optional. You do have to wear it on the subway and public transit, but other than that, it's all right. I choose not to wear a mask just because the government says we don't have to, so I don't. As far as like China in general, one thing that we kind of haven't talked about yet is like what this is going to do for the future. And I think
that's going to be my next question. But
what I've seen is that Chinese people, some of them are scared to go out. Traffic is, even though everything's open again, traffic is not as bad as it used to be. The malls and places that I've frequented before that I go to again now aren't as busy as they used to be. So I think it is seemingly back to normal. You just have more people wearing masks, but also at the same time, I think more people are choosing to stay home and be homebodies than they were before. A lot of students now are opting for their additional classes after school to do online, which I think could be the future of a lot of businesses, to go online as opposed to being in a hagwon or in a I don't even know what you call them here in China. So
private school,
yeah, like at a private academy here in China.
Well, you were already doing that though, Dee, huh? Like you were right into the online stuff before you even left Korea, right?
Yeah. I mean I was doing the Palfish and the VIP Kid for 4 years before this even happened, and I quit just last year, which was Chuseok time. Just ended up in Hong Kong on a break, and I was like, I still got to work some VIP Kid classes, and I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I just abruptly quit. But now my students, I had homeschool students or kids that I would go to their homes to study before the virus, and they couldn't do that until after all the restrictions were lifted and kids went back to school. So I did online classes on Zoom, which, God, like we were talking about on the break, man, if we could have invested in Zoom before we knew this shit was going to go down.
Sick. Yeah.
It would have been, wow, amazing.
Timing was impeccable. That was actually on the BBC News. It made one of the sort of like big stories on there, you know. They did like a sort of story on Zoom, and the timing of the business and how it was launched, and then this happened, and it just everything sort of fitted together. You know,
Yeah.
like unbelievable,
Perfect timing,
right?
Yeah.
Perfect timing, right? You know,
Another
and I mean,
conspiracy theory.
yeah, there you go, Marco. It is right.
Yeah,
You know,
like why
right?
Zoom? There was others that existed. I mean, Google Hangouts and Google Meetings now or whatever have been around forever, which is similar. Or Skype.
It's fascinating.
Skype.
My favorite are all these videos, like these guys that are in corporate meetings that they think they turn their camera off and they're getting busted for self-pleasuring themselves when all the other people are on, and they think that their cameras and microphones are turned off.
Or wasn't there a woman who like did an animation where she looked like a potato and she couldn't turn it off or something like that?
No, but
Yeah, that
you hear
was
about
the thing.
no.
She's like, fuck it, let's
after we
just do the
talked
meeting.
about-
And she's like, the whole time she's just a potato with eyes, like her eyes.
After we talked about it earlier, I spent the break watching videos of Zoom failures. It was great.
That's pretty cool. I'll have to have a look. I've never looked at that. I just saw something on Facebook saying like guy was busted, like, and I didn't watch the video. I was just like, it's got to be something dirty. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Pornhub did one for Happy Masturbation Day where a guy's in a public or in a corporate meeting, and he turns off his microphone, and apparently he can't hear either. Turns off his video, so he thought, but it clicked right back on. He runs to the bathroom, comes back with a bottle of lotion and a box of tissues, starts unbuttoning his pants, and there's 7 or 8 other people in the meeting going, no, no, no. One person's trying to call him on the phone at the same time. Everybody's freaking out, and then it goes, Happy Masturbation Day. Just because you're in work doesn't mean that you're whatever, blah, blah, blah. For Pornhub.
Oh, that's brilliant. That's brilliant.
Great marketing. Great marketing.
Yeah, man.
Anyway, so where do you see this all going? Not Masturbation Day, but the whole future of, with the coronavirus and stuff. Like, are you worried public schools open now if like one kid gets this, gets infected or something, even though it's not bad or something? Are they going to shut everything down again, or like where do you see this all going? Adam.
It's really hard to say. You hear about public schools in other countries that have reopened, and then there's another small little outbreak. I think that happened in Jerusalem recently, where they had to shut down a whole slew of public schools after they reopened. I hope nothing like that happens here, because like I said, I like teaching in class. Like even if now I do have to change a lot of my lessons. Like I used to have a lot of like group activities and pair activities, which now I can't do. But I'm hoping that it gets, I'm hoping that this kind of dwindles out. I hope that people are still cautious and that they wash their hands and wear the mask up to a certain degree. But I'm hoping we get back to a certain degree of normalcy, even though, it's best to be cautious about these kind of things.
All right. And Marco, where do you see things going?
I honestly couldn't even say, because I mean, it could get worse. It could get better. I think the world has changed forever. Even if things do go back to the way they were before, we'll at least be more prepared or more aware of possibilities.
And Paul, how do you see things going?
To be honest, man, like I hate to be negative, but I think that there will be there's guaranteed there's got to be some sort of outbreak somewhere in Korea or wherever. And as soon as that happens, they're going to shut everything down again, and it's going back to square one until there's a vaccine.
And Dee, what do you think about the future? Do you think it's going to be like more online? What do you think will happen if a kid gets infected? Like, let's say you're in Shanghai, so what if a kid gets infected and where the hell's the Great Wall? What the hell's the other?
Beijing.
Like, if a kid gets infected in Beijing, are they going to shut down the country again, or do you think just be isolated and they can contain it? And
well, over the weekend, Beijing just had another outbreak. That was from a market and about 50 people tested positive. So they shut Beijing down army style again. Military lockdown, schools, gyms, all that kind of stuff. So if somebody here is infected, I don't think so. But if there's a cluster, I do think that it'll be shut down again. They've gotten very good at tracing people through technology and figuring out where everybody is. Let's put it that way. And yeah, I don't know if it. I don't know. I try not to think about it. I try not to think about it because God, we can get into a lot of theories. We can get in a lot of negative perspectives, but I want to keep it positive and say that this is just a phase and we're going to get through it.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat. I don't think negatively of it. I mean, I think if, some kids get infected or something like that somewhere here in Korea, I think they can isolate it and, with the tracing and all that, they might have to shut down the specific school, but I don't think people are going to, be that concerned with it anymore in terms of shutting everything down. I think we're just going to learn to live with it, kind of like, I don't know, like chickenpox or something back in the day. Although obviously it's a different disease and all that, but we're just going to learn to live with it. And as far as returning to normal, I mean, I remember reading somewhere, like maybe the normal was not a good thing anyway, and things are changing for the better. I mean, obviously, like you look at the environment and everything now,
and also people's standards of hygiene, right? You get a lot of more people washing their hands, which is great.
Well, let me just say, through all this virus stuff, they have made the Beijing bikini, how the men can roll their shirt up to their chest like this and walk around. They made it illegal now, so can't do that. So they're making positive steps here.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Never even heard of that before.
No, me neither.
I'm doing that right now, so putting it off. Well, that's going to be it for this episode of K-Pod, Life in Korea. I'd like to thank everyone out there who is listening or watching us. And I'd like to thank our guest and host today for joining. Thanks, of course, to Adam. Adam, where can people get in touch with you if they're looking to do that?
You can find me on any social media, Instagram, EverStalwart. And you can find me on 10 Years Apart podcast, which I co-host along with Scott. You can find us at 10yearsapart.com and check out our YouTube videos. Please like, share, and subscribe.
And Marco, thanks again for being here and, joining the podcast again. So where can people get in touch with you if they want to?
Well, thanks for having me back. And I'm on Instagram and I'm on Facebook. I do not remember my Instagram handle at the moment because I changed it a couple months ago. But if you search for the Changwoner, you can definitely find links to my Facebook or from the K-Pop Global Instagram. You can
I'll
find
have the links below anyway. And thanks to Paul for coming back for this episode and joining us again here on K-Pod. Paul, where can people get in touch with you?
Well, if they really want to get in touch with me, I've got obviously Facebook, Instagram, the usual stuff. It would be Paul Roberts. Cute dog picture. His name's John. And then obviously for graphic design, it would be hypedesign.studio. And that's it.
And of course, thanks to Dee for joining us for this episode and giving his insights and things on China. And it was great seeing you again. Dee, what's up with you and where can people get in touch with you?
You too, buddy. Well, guys, I am happy to see all of us together. It's been a long time. Let me give a few shout outs to my friend Polly Ford and Hendrik out there. Also, too, want to give a shout out to a guy named Julian Switala. who runs and helps to run a page called Edgy Korean Memes for Korean and Expat Drama Queens. I so wish that I had joined that site when I was living in Korea. It would have gotten me through a lot of darker days now. But if you want to get in touch with me, just contact me through abcdee428 at gmail.com, and that's it.
All right, and of course, once again, I'm Scott. You can get in contact with me through anything regarding this podcast or Changwonderful or the Changwoner. Or you can email me at scott@changwoner.com. And if you have any questions you think we could help you out with, just let us know. We love hearing from you. And if there's any topics you'd like to see us cover on this podcast, just let us know too. Thanks again for listening, watching, and joining us here on K-Pod. Stay tuned for our next episode, and wherever you are out there, we hope you stay safe, and whether you're coming to Korea or already here, we hope your experience is just as good as ours with regards to living in Korea.
Bye. Bye, boys.
Bye, boys.
Yeah.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Good to see you too, brother.
Likewise, man. Be nice. Be fun.
All right.
You guys
Later.
keep in touch, eh?
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Peace and love.